Well, the highly anticipated second wave of the global pandemic has finally arrived, and the UK has introduced a three-tiered alert system, which was designed to make it simple for people to understand, but it basically means that different parts of the country are under different restrictions, let alone what's going on in the rest of the world. But I wanted to know, like, how are you guys being affected by the second wave? Because with all the mixed messages and experts and officials all arguing over the right course of action, who and what should we believe? And has anybody gotten it right?
Yeah, for me, it's really tough. I think, luckily, and I say that, understanding with gratitude, because a lot of people have lost their livelihoods or lost a lot of family members, that with things like COVID, especially the tier 2 restrictions, the biggest way it's impacting me is that I just don't get to see my friends or my family, or I'm missing out on what would have been big moments for a lot of people. Like, one of my friends, she was meant to be getting married, it's one of my other friend's 30th birthday. So these are, our friend was having a baby shower. It's like all these big moments that are happening in my friends and family's lives, and we can't even stand in the same room. So it's tough in that way. But I once again express the gratitude I have, because I haven't lost a job or lost a family member. In regards to what we should believe, it's really, do you know what? It's really difficult. It's really difficult. Do I believe that there has been inconsistencies in a lot of the messaging that we have received from the public? Absolutely. Yeah. But I think it would be reckless for me to say, oh, it's all fake and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not of that belief. Personally, for me, I know that I am just keeping my mask on, washing my hands, keeping the distance. Because the way that I look at it in my mind is, if they're wrong, if cases aren't rising and it's not as bad as they say it is, if they're wrong, they're just wrong. But if they're right, it's like it's devastating. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm doing. Has anybody got it right? I think initially, when we were seeing a lot of the countries that we spoke about in a previous episode, like New Zealand, those kind of places where we were saying that they were led by women and they were controlling the infection a little better, I think initially, yes, they were doing well. I think this thing it's kind of tough because we've never faced this before. So it's kind of hard to know what you're doing right when you're tackling something brand new. I think there are places that are doing definitely wrong. I will say that. But I think there's people that are putting their best foot forward and trying. Like, I was reading about India. They've got the second highest infection rates after the US in the world, over 7 million. However, their death rate, they've been able to maintain and keep it low. So it's like, okay, clearly there's a bit of an outbreak out there, but there is something that they're doing right or concerning their efforts to. So I wouldn't say they're doing great, but I recognise the efforts of India. So that's what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
So Taiwan didn't even have to go into an intense lockdown because they had all those procedures that they implemented from the beginning. And the difference with them and England has been, at the beginning of this, it was very much like staying at home was a suggestion, you should do this, it's probably best for you, but it wasn't implemented in the same way. So if you give people a choice between isolating themselves and going on as normal, like, what do we think people are going to choose, Yeah,
and I think as well, because we got round to it a bit too late, because by the time we had gone into a lockdown, they said that Boris Johnson had been warned about this potential conditional disease that was coming, and he missed meetings, he wasn't taking it seriously. But I think in terms of the second wave, I think we opened up very quickly, and the way that we opened up wasn't done in a way that made people feel like it was still a major issue, because when they pretty much opened up the country, they cancelled the daily briefing straight away. All pubs and shops were opened. Everything was open. So people felt like everything was back to normal, and they acted like everything had gone back to normal. And the reason why, it's a very tough line. They had to open up the world again because obviously the economy was so far gone, and you've put people on furlough, and without people working, the government has to fill the gap. And if they don't feel, and the only way that they can get the money back is if people go back to work. So I do understand that they had to find a balance in line, but I don't think that they did. In the way that we opened up, I felt was reckless. And it's funny, a friend of mine actually put on Instagram, how long do you think until we go back into a second wave? And this is when we just opened up. I was like, 2 to 3 months top, and we're back in it again. We're back in it again. So I think it just makes me sad. Like, it's obviously they're still trying to keep the economy open, but it feels like it's at the price of human lives and actually getting a handle on it.
But I think, as I said before, there's just been so much inconsistencies in the messaging. I think from the beginning, I think at every stage, in the beginning, it was very like, you can go into lockdown if you want to, and then it was like no one was going into lockdown, so like, okay, everyone go lockdown. Then it was like, oh, okay, everybody can go outside. Then all of a sudden, okay, but you have to wear a mask. Oh, but then you have to be outside, you have to leave by 10 p.m. And then it's like, oh, but you could only be with 6 people. And so it was just like, it was just so inconsistent. And even my frustration now is with this 3-tier system, because I get tier 1, I kind of get tier 3, I don't get tier 2. I think it just makes no sense at all, and I don't think it's manageable, nor are people able to police it, because it's kind of like, oh, you can't have anyone in your household, you can't go into a restaurant with somebody from a different household, but you and up to 6 people from different other households can sit outside. It's just like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I just think nobody's going to follow that. And I think restaurants, especially small restaurants, I don't want to call anybody out, they want the money. They're not going to be checking all from the same house.
How do are we bringing like proof of address?
Exactly. Anybody can lie.
I just feel local lockdowns can't work in a country like the United Kingdom, or let's say England, because let's be very clear, other places are taking it a bit more seriously. Like Scotland, I've heard that Wales has just announced that they're going to go into like a 2-down
crackdown.
And this is something that people have been asking to happen in the UK, a circuit breaker. So a period of 2 weeks where we would just go into another lockdown to try and get the R number down. But we don't seem to want to do that. I think they're closing the
border as well.
My thing is, like, our country is too small for a local lockdown. You can do it in the States because every state basically is a country. So it's much easier to say, you know, California or Florida has been locked down. But when you're saying, oh, Manchester's been locked down. But look, I know people who live in the Midlands and they're just like, oh, Birmingham is shut down? No problem. Let me go to Leicester then to go and do what I need to do. Like, it's too close to be trying to implement it and assuming that things aren't going to spread. Because when you lock down one area, you're forcing people to go out if things are still open, which they are. And my thing is, you know that Boris Johnson is going to say, you know, it was the people, you know, we did all we can. And I'm like, it's not the people. It's ridiculous that you're saying that we have to wear masks everywhere, but when we go in a restaurant, we don't. People are sharing forks, utensils, like the rate of infection is going to be a lot higher, but we're trying to get money in. It's just madness, honestly.
I've been going to the restaurants since obviously throughout the lockdown, and I even went to one this weekend. I went with my sister. First of all, they really didn't care if anybody had a mask. They didn't offer any kind of antibacterial. They didn't give me a temperature check. And they also gave me a glass which looked like somebody else had just drank from it. There was like lipstick smudging. I had to send it back. I said, oh, no. No, my sister caught it and she was like, no, this is dirty. You need to send it back. At that point, I was like, I feel very unsafe.
You know who's for that? Do you guys go to Wetherspoons?
No,
I used to.
When I was especially like in my teen years, like I was living in Wetherspoons, but like they would always like serve glasses with lip marks on them, just like routinely, and every single time, like you'd get cutlery with like food still on it, and I'd just sit there and I'd be like, we are getting what we pay for, and this is why people keep going there, because everything is so cheap. But it's cheap because there's going to be someone else's food on your fork and someone else's lipstick stain on your glass, and like I don't actually drink from glasses anyway. Like I'll always use a straw if I can, except I guess if it's like a wine glass or something. But to be fair, like I drink a spirit through a straw. I don't even care. Like, and I'm talking pre lockdown as well. This is just my hygiene preferences, and I would like clean the forks and knives before I ate with them as well, because I don't know, I just don't trust them. You're going to put it in a big dishwasher, you're not going to check it afterwards. Exactly.
And I think with COVID, you have to be vigilant.
And I think that kind of personal, because like you guys are talking about forks and stuff, but it makes me think about how personal this is all going to get again with us being in lockdown, and how is it going to affect us personally? Because the first time when the sun was going down late and summer was coming, it wasn't as bad. You could look out your window and see the sun or go for a walk or whatever. But now going into another lockdown and we're going into winter, the clocks are going, back or forward, whatever which way the clocks are going. Exactly. It's happening next week. And like for me, it's like I need to make sure that I'm getting back into a routine if I'm going to be at home, because the days can so easily like drift into one another. And I think with the first lockdown, there was this massive emphasis on being as productive as you could be. Bake as much banana bread as you can, get as fit as you can, start your side hustle. Like you have all this time. But I think now people are much more going to be feeling the mental health weight of it on them, because it's like it's going into it and we're going into like winter, coming into the holiday season. It's going to be more of a strain, and people need to really make sure, the government needs to make sure that they're giving tips on how people can actually survive and thrive through this, because I think it's going to show up a lot of issues of people not being able to cope.
Have you guys heard of SAD?
No. Yeah.
Sad. Basically
it's
seasonal
a seasonal
affective disorder, and it's like a type of depression that affects you come every winter because your serotonin levels are just drops, and there's not that much, like vitamin D from the
sun and light.
Like literally what you were just saying, Sophie, if you can look outside and it's still bright, like you feel like you have a good day, a lot's going on. When it gets darker and when it gets colder, it affects a lot of people more. And this is why I feel like Christmas is placed like where it is, because we need something to hang on to. Like when the winter periods come, we're like, okay, Halloween, bonfire night, Christmas, because we need something to cling on to. If we had nothing during these winter times and everything, like I said, is dark and cold, it just sends you into like such a negative spiral. And so that plus a lockdown, I don't know what it's going to look like. So I'm really not looking forward to part 2.
But that's why I'm of the unpopular opinion that I think now the whole country should go into lockdown for at least a couple of weeks, because I'd rather do the trade-off right now versus Christmas, if I'm honest. I want to be able to see my family and my friends and have the Christmas experience. So I don't mind being locked up now for a couple of weeks or whatever, so that I can have the trade-off for Christmas, because I think if something isn't done drastically, I think by the time we get to Christmas, we would have already been in lockdown or haven't experienced lockdown, and there's going to be strict Christmas rules. Because when I've been out, guys, even though the pubs close at 10 p.m, I'm just seeing large crowds of people. They're drunk, they're all over each other, no one's wearing a mask, and I'm just thinking to myself, we're going into a lockdown. Like every time I see crowds, I think, no, we're going into lockdown, because these people don't care. And that's why they say a lot of the cases now are present in the younger population, because they're out, they're getting drunk, they're mingling, they're tired of
It's true.
I think we need a lockdown. I seriously do.
In terms of thinking that we need a lockdown, what do you guys think about the Swedish model? In terms of the Swedish model is saying that in Sweden, they haven't actually gone into a lockdown. They've actually trusted people to say, like, if you think you need to isolate, then you should. And they're saying that you don't need to wear masks because it gives a full sense of reality. Let me just say it then. I don't think we can trust British people.
Not British people. There you go.
We can't be trusted.
I'm not mad at the no masks things, because I'm not a fan of masks, and when you have to travel for long periods of time, it literally
honestly
feels so suffocating. And I wear it out of respect for other people, but I would really, really rather not. But we tried the trusting British people thing at the beginning. Like I said, if you give the people the choice between isolation and going to Wetherspoons, you will see me in spoons.
Listen, you cannot trust the British people, period. That's not even a thought.